Kyrk, I imagine it's been a rather busy 7 days. Could you try and summarise and just tell supporters what it's been like from the inside?
It's been intense. We had a conversation with Michael a couple of days before the Ross County game. There was a lot to take in from his side. There was a lot of new developments that happened in Michael's personal life back in Germany. So we had kind of conversations with him just before the Ross County game. I spoke to him after the match on trackside up in Dingwall, just to get a feeling for where his head was at. And then we kept in touch, obviously very regularly, when he went back home to Germany just after the game. And then obviously the developments of last week as well with the negotiation with Regensburg. So yeah, it's been an intense 10 days or so.
In the club statement, it was cited as family issues. Were those family issues something that the club were aware of previously or prior to that first discussion before the Ross County game?
Yeah, when we met Michael and Ahmet in Edinburgh a few months ago now, we had a very open conversation about their personal circumstances. We inquired as to what their plans were with their family. The guys talked about their time in Vienna, and their families had stayed in Germany during that time. They travelled back and forth to see the family, as of course you would. So we made accommodations here. We tried to be kind of really open with the guys, very transparent about getting them time to go back to Germany to see the family. Michael had his family here as well during the Easter period. So that was a conversation we had really kind of through the due diligence process. But obviously the developments that came just before the county game were completely separate from that, and were quite urgent as well, and that was something we had to be mindful of with Michael.
When those issues became apparent that there would be a serious issue, were the discussions, were they involved about how we could maybe try and make this work and how Michael could remain as Motherwell manager? Was that explored or was it just not possible?
No, it was extensive discussions. Myself, Brian and Greg met with Michael on the Friday before the county game, and then we looked at a number of options for Michael to stay in Scotland. Ultimately, Michael was happy here, enjoyed his time at the club. I think that was put across in his statement as well. After Michael went back to Germany on the Monday, I kept in kind of very close contact with him. He obviously had to assess his family situation, find out what was going on, kind of more first hand, and then from there just kind of transpired that it wasn't really possible for him to kind of fully focus on Motherwell, and at the same time kind of take care of his family in Germany.
Obviously with Michael's departure, Kyrk, as well, there's a little bit of uncertainty around Ahmet Koc's role. Is he still contracted as things stand? Very much, very much.
We've been in close contact with Ahmet over the last week or so. Ahmet's really happy at Motherwell, as Michael was. There was kind of conversations as to whether Ahmet was going to join Michael in Germany. Ahmet's delighted to be in Scotland and wants to continue his role at the club. So, listen, part of our process here is continuing close dialogue with Ahmet, and we'll continue that over the summer.
In football, things move on, life goes on, I suppose. The club have announced the first summer signing today. Lucas Fedinger joins the club. Is that a sign of things still progressing behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Off the pitch things continue. The negotiations with Lucas have been a long time coming. It's been a pre-contract agreement. So that kind of side of things always continues. We're always looking to see how we can grow the squad in terms of adding quality where it's necessary. And so we're delighted to welcome Lucas to the club, and hopefully more to come on that side of things in the coming weeks. The transfer window opens on the 12th of June, so we're kind of doing work behind the scenes to lead up to that. And I'm sure there's a lot of exciting new faces to come to the club over the summer.
You talk about exciting new faces. Obviously, we will need a new manager now as well. Where are we at in terms of the process of that?
Right at the beginning. As I say, the last week has been challenging, kind of dealing with Michael's situation, trying to figure that out. The negotiations with Regensburg, and settling that on Friday. In full transparency, I think the paperwork was signed about 20 minutes before the press release went out on Friday. So things were moving extremely quickly last week, and myself, Brian, trying very hard to kind of keep up with that, and make sure we followed that process as tightly as we could. So now the work begins on finding a new manager. I think for me, what's key is that we follow the same process and principles as last time. I think Michael and Amits, since they've come to the club, their record has been fantastic. We won 3 games out of 6 when we moved after the split. So the process and the principles for who we bring in, I think, should remain the same. and that's what we're working to now. So it's once again a subcommittee of the executive board, Greg from the Welsh Society, Brian and myself, involved with that, and that process will now continue over the next period until we get somebody in place.
You spoke briefly there about wanting to kind of go with the same process that you did in February. Is part of that because it was kept so tight? You know, there was a lot of paper talk, but a lot of it was inaccurate. Yeah,
I think be wary of the paper. How much people read into it would probably be my advice. We deliberately kept it tight because I think it's important to be respectful of individuals, their personal circumstances, and also some individuals are still with clubs as well. So part of our process was to make sure that it was kept as tight as possible. We're going to do the same again this time. There was a lot of speculation about who was sitting next to me in the stand, which transpired to be my dad, which was quite funny for us at the time. But obviously now, kind of close season, there's never a perfect time for a manager to leave. But we've got a period now where the players are off on summer holiday. The players are coming back in the middle of June. So we've been working as extremely hard as we can to make sure we get somebody in place as soon as possible. But as I say, we need to do the process as well as we can, make sure the due diligence is done as best as possible or to the highest standard. We used a lot of data last time as well, and that's going to be part of what we're doing this time. But again, it's about making sure we bring good people to the club. The data tells you one side of it, but the people side of it, the human side of it is so important as well, and it's important we marry those two things in this process.
It's not just players and staff that will have been affected by the news of Michael's departure, supporters as well.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone has one eye on next season. What would your message be to the supporters going into that?
Stick with us. I think this was a shock for everybody. I know Michael had built up a really good rapport with the supporters over the last period. For us, that's really important, right? Everybody, I think, is well aware of how important the supporters are at Motherwell. They're the lifeblood of the club, effectively. So, it's really important, and I would ask all the fans to stick with us through the process here. We're looking at, what we do to kind of, the season ticket process and everything as well. We've taken the decision to extend the early bird deadline on our season tickets until the 20th of June. I know that a lot of people will have kind of apprehension about season tickets when there isn't a manager in place, and we felt that was an appropriate step to show that we're really engaging with everybody, and hopefully we see as many faces back at Fir Park next season as possible.
I guess supporters will also want to know, is there a lot going on behind the scenes here, amongst the stadium? Because obviously summer is a busy period for a football club. Yeah,
listen, we're a new board, and I think, we've been quite outspoken about what we want to achieve at the club. We've been quite outspoken about the fact that we want to grow the revenue off the pitch. That's a really, really important factor of what we're trying to do and the energy that we're trying to bring into the club. That doesn't change. So, it was already going to be an extremely busy summer. The managerial situation is going to add to that. It doesn't detract from it. Hopefully, when people come back after the summer, they'll see a lot of new developments around the stadium, and a lot of those developments are about trying to again uplift the revenue of the football club, which means ultimately we've got more money to hopefully invest onto the pitch. So that, as I say, that work doesn't stop; it continues, and we need to make sure it's done over the summer period and everything's prepared both on and off the pitch ahead of next season.
Thanks for your time, Kyrk.
Thank you.